All right, so we're going to make a setup and we're going to manufacture this piece. So this is going to be in plastic, so I'm going to do everything in plastic, but if you're doing aluminum, it's the same thing. So we'll go to manufacture, change our workspace, and we got to start by making a setup. So if you can see, this is a piece I imported from somebody else who wants me to cut this. But if you notice, the Z-axis is pointing up. This isn't designed in the right plane. So if it was designed correctly, it would look like that with this face pointing up, but it's not, but it's fine. We can fix this. So all we need to do is create a setup and we're gonna define our workspace coordinates. So I'm gonna pick the machine first, our Omeo. We will change this where it says orientation. If it was the model orientation, we would have designed it with Z up, but we didn't, right? So I'm going to change this to Z-axis plane and X-axis. And so now it's asking me to select the Z-axis. The Z-axis is the face that I want to cut out, right? So I'm going to go on here and highlight this face. And now see my Z is pointing out of that face. That's what I want. And then I need to go define the X-axis. Notice as soon as I click that, X-axis lit up. So my X-axis, I'm going to make that edge right there. And now my X-axis is done. So it says Z-axis face, X-axis is edge. And now I need to go define the origin. So it should be model box point. And I'm going to click this thing where it says box point, make it blue. And then I want to click the top left, or I'm sorry, bottom left corner of the top face right there. Not this one because it's going to think the top of the face is lower. You always want to choose the bottom left corner, but the top of the workpiece. And now my setup is done. So I'm going to go to stock and I'm going to make sure I have no additional stock on. And that's good. And I'm going to leave these two things alone. Press OK. And now my setup is done. So now, let me move this a little bit. We can start going and taking care of these things. So let's think of the order of operations we want to do. The last thing I want to do is cut this thing out. So I'm going to start by, let's do the little holes first. So those small holes, let me check. If I click on that, it tells me my diameter is 0.201. So I can use my 4mm end mill because it's 4mm is, I can cut between 0.16 and 0.32 inches. So let's go to 2D and I'm going to choose a bore. I'm going to go to the tool first. I'm going to select my 4mm end mill. And if you're doing aluminum, you would do aluminum, but I'm going to do plastics because this is going to be in a piece of plastic. So I got my tool selected. I shouldn't have to play with any of these numbers. I'm not going to mess with multi-axis. Let's go to geometry. So I'm going to pick, I want to do all these holes. So I'm going to choose the inside face of one of those holes and see how it chose one to drill out. But I want all of them. So you could, if you wanted to, you could go and click each individual one, right? But if you do select same diameter, it'll do everything that has the same diameter. So now I've got all of my holes selected. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit and make sure it's not missing any holes. Yeah, they're all in the toolpath. Okay. So I'm going to go to heights and I'm going to make sure that my bottom height is negative 0.02 inches. So it's enough, turn this on, it's enough for me to drill just a little bit through, or bore I should say, just a little bit through. See how it's going through? If I put it at 0, it might leave some on the bottom and I have to go poke out all those holes and that wouldn't be good. So I've set this as a default. You can too. If you just click right there and go save as user default, it'll always be negative 0.02. You don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to leave the clearance height, the retract height, the top height. I'm going to leave all those alone. I'm going to go to passes, make sure my angle is 5 degrees. That's my ramp angle. So you can see if I change my ramp angle to like 15 degrees, that changes the angle that that helix is ramping in. So I found that 5 is good. So I'm going to keep it at that. And then I'm going to go to linking and make sure, oh, this one doesn't have lead in, lead up. That's fine. So everything should be good. I'm going to press OK. And now my bore is done. And so now, before I start doing anything, I'm going to right click this, say bore small holes. I'm going to call that operation. So give it a descriptive name. Okay, so I've done the bore. What's next? let's do these bigger holes. I can't bore these holes because I would be left with a big giant chunk that could fly out. So for these holes, I'm going to do a pocket. So a 2D pocket, I've got mine in my toolbar, or you can go to 2D and pick 2D pocket. So we're going to pocket these regular shapes, circles. So here, you can't choose the inside wall. You got to choose a contour. So I'm going to choose the bottom contour, because if I choose the top, it's not actually going to cut into the material. So I'm going to choose all of these bottom contours. Oop, I think I clicked the wrong one. Let me go back. It was this one. Yeah, make sure that you don't get a top. And we'll check later when we simulate and make sure that doesn't happen. Now I've got all those selected. Okay, so I'm not going to pocket this because this is not a regular shape. So a pocket will follow a contour around, and so like a circle, a pocket's just going to follow it from the middle out. But if I try to do that here, there's some tight corners and it's just going to be a weird toolpath. So I don't like to do pockets on anything that's not a big hole or a slot. So we'll do something else for that. So I'm going to, did my geometry. I'm going to go to heights, make sure this is negative 0.02 just like before. I'm going to go to my passes, and something important, I'm going to turn off stock to leave. Do not leave stock. So if I'm just cutting this out, we're not dealing with anything crazy like we have to have like a super fine finish. Like if we did finishing passes, then we would worry about that. I'm going to turn off stock to leave, because what's going to happen if you leave stock to leave on, it's going to leave a small amount inside. In this case, 0.02 inches. I don't want to leave stock. I want to cut it exactly the width that I need. So I'm going to turn that off. And then everything else is good. I'm going to go to linking, and I'm going to turn off, well, you can leave that in. I got my ramp at 5 degrees. That's good. None of that's going to matter because it's leading in inside the circle. And everything looks good. So I'm going to press OK for that. And now I've got my pockets done. So see what it's doing there? A pocket is starting in here, and then it's working its way, just working its way to that outer contour. And so that's kind of why I didn't want to do here, because that's not a circular shape. So this is going to be pocket. These are buttonholes. So I'm going to call it pocket buttonholes. All right, so next I'm going to get this shape right here. So to do that, I'm going to do 2D adaptive clearing. Adaptive clearing is like a pocket, but it like optimizes toolpaths. So again, it's either there, I've got mine in my toolbar, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to choose the bottom of this contour. Notice I haven't selected a tool, because every time I'm using the same tool, it says the one from before. So if I go to tool, it's already populated with the one that I used in the previous one. So all you have to do is set the tool the first time. And as long as you don't change the tool, then it'll keep using that same 4mm end mill, right? So that's why I just went straight to picking geometry. So let's see, heights, negative 0.02 for the bottom. My passes, I'm again turn off stock to leave. And then linking, here the ramp angle is 20, but that's fine because it's going in. Well, you'll see it on the way. This is ramping not a circle in the middle, but it's going to ramp down as it moves its way around. And then I'm going to press OK, and let's see this toolpath. There it is. So see how it does circular paths, but then it's going to stop and pick it up and get some of these smaller bits. It's just doing it better than if it was trying to follow this contour. So I'll show you what it looks like. If you want to simulate just a thing, let me call this clear joystick hole. So let's run a simulation on it. If I want to simulate just one operation, you click the operation you want. I'm going to go to the top, and I'm going to do simulate. Not simulate with machine, simulate. And then let's watch this. So press play. That's a little fast. Let me start over again. So it's working its way around. And then if it gets to a corner, see how it starts getting this stuff, and then it gets this stuff, and then it goes and gets that stuff, and it works its way around. If I did a pocket, it would have just made a little shape like this and then worked its way out, which can be bad in these tight corners. So that's pretty good. I'm going to go back. I was wrong about the angle. I'm going to go change that ramp angle. So to change this, we'll double click that, go back here to linking. I'm going to change my ramping angle to 5 degrees. Press OK. And let's look at that. That's better. So now last thing, I need to, let me move this over a little bit. I need to cut the thing out. So everything's done. I need to cut the outer contour. So I'm not going to use tabs because what I'm going to do is screw this down in some of these places. But so that I have time to screw this down, I'm going to add a step here. So I'm going to go to Setup, and I'm going to go Manual NC, and I'm going to add a stop. And I'm going to change this, call it Stop Screw Down Plate. So what's going to happen is when I press play on the machine, it's going to run the bore, it's going to run the pocket, it's going to run the adaptive clearing, and then it's going to stop. And it's going to give me time to come in with a screwdriver and screw this thing down to the table so it holds down while I cut it out. Otherwise, I would have to use tabs. And if it was aluminum, I would use tabs, but because it's plastic, I'm not going to use tabs because that's going to melt the plastic. So let's go, we'll do next 2D, and a contour is going to cut out the final shape. Right, so I've got mine on my toolbar, 2D contour, still using the same tool. Oh no, it's not going to let me do it because my previous operation didn't have a tool. So I've got to go select my tool again. So I'm going to choose my 4mm end mill, make sure it's plastic, select. So now we can go to geometry. Let me zoom in, whoa, get that bottom contour. And again, heights, -0.02. Passes, I want to make sure there's no stock to leave. That's good. Linking, this doesn't matter. I'm going to turn off lead in and lead out just to make it cleaner. A lead in and lead out like wastes some room. I don't really need that. Yeah, that should be good. Let me see the. Yes, that should be everything. So it should plunge in and then work its way around. You can make it ramp if you want. So if I put like a 10-degree ramp angle on it, I'll show you what that does. I kind of like to do ramps sometimes. So let me press OK. So here's what a ramp will do for you. See how it's going to, let me go to the bottom view. It's going to ramp in at 20 degrees and then go all the way around. Whereas if I did it the other way, let me do this without a ramp. If I didn't put a ramp on, see if it goes from the same spot. No, it's just going to go straight down and then start going. So honestly, this is plastic. It doesn't matter. But I like doing a ramp. If this was aluminum, I would say just go straight down in, plunge in, but I like doing ramps just to kind of be careful with it. So I'm going to go back and change this to a ramp. I'm going to leave it at 10 degrees. And then let me click home. And so now I can zoom in. Let me zoom in to make sure that toolpath's on the bottom. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, so now I can go run the entire simulation. So again, let me change this to cutout plate. So I'm going to click up here where it says setup 1. If I had multiple setups, I would click there. You want to be safe, just click at the top where it says setups. Highlight setups, and then go to simulate. Not simulate with machine, simulate. So this should run the entire thing. So there's my bores. I'm going to just watch and make sure nothing goes crazy. I can speed it up a little bit. There's my clearing. There's my contour. And it has, I didn't see anything go wrong, so it looks good. So now that I've got the entire thing done, I'm going to make G-code for it. So to do that, at the top where it says setup, NC program, I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to call this is the button board top. And I want to make sure it's in millimeters. I'm making sure I'm using the CNC router parts post, and then I'm gonna go to operations and make sure all my operations are in there. All right, so all my operations are there. I'm gonna go back to settings and it looks good. So I'm going to click post, and that's gonna post process it. And now my program is right here, but it's saved it onto my computer. So if I want to go get it from my computer, you can right click this and go open NC output folder. And it's going to open a folder that's got your NC files in it. And if you save this program is here. So even if you open up on a different computer, it's going to always be there. You can post it again, right? And it has a warning sign. The warning just says, make sure your safer tracks are set to the clearance height, which it is. Right, it's just a warning. So I'm going to click save. I'm going to call, let's say I ran the cam for the board. I'm calling that my description. Press OK. And now this whole thing is saved. And that's how to create the setup and do multiple operations.